I'm so tired today. Why do you think that might be?
There's no sun and we've been exposed to mold. What a perfect time for this.
Actually, it is a perfect time for this.
Yeah.
We are going to talk mold today, and whether or not you are somebody who might have energy drain, if you have broken brain, if you are on the symptom train, if you have weight gain, if you have any of these symptoms, probably
mold has something to do with that.
Something.
And mold, one of the interesting things about mold is it lowers so much of your immune system. But Dr. Dennis is really smart. He's been doing this for 40 years, medical doctor. It's just highly specialized in this stuff. And we've actually used some of the stuff that he's recommended.
And we're going to talk about
on really cool.
The show today. So here's a few things that you can expect to hear on the show today. The mold epidemic and why it's a major root cause health issue for all of us. Western medicine fails, why your doctor will fail every time at detecting and treating it properly. And then
where it comes from.
Yeah, where's it coming from?
It comes from everywhere.
It's everywhere. I mean, we're even doing some things at our own home here where we have found mold. So you guys, it's everywhere. And today we're going to talk about why, and we're going to talk about some of the hows with one of the best experts that we know on mold remediation, treating it in the body, out of the body, and everything in between. So here we go.
You're listening to Cleanse, Heal, Ignite podcast, and I'm your hostess, Diane Kazer, functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, former pro soccer player, transformational leader, holistic healer, and life purpose coach, helping you and your business awaken to your full potential. We are a transformation tribe of visionaries empowering passion-quenching, heart-centered advice to wellness warrior leaders on self-love, nutrition, mindset, and divorcing perfectionism. Our mission is to help you laugh your way to a sexy belly, love your way to vitality, and live your life with purpose by sharing real talk and truth drops that will help you cleanse your body, heal your hormones, and ignite your life. Side effects of this podcast may include all-day energy, happy hormones, perfect poops, increased confidence, becoming your own best healer, and catching the self-love virus. There's currently no vaccination to protect you from this and no known cure. In most cases, listeners experience a strong desire to accept new challenges, ditch toxic people, follow their heart, and dance like no one's watching. If you experience moods happier than usual, live it unapologetically and share with your social media friends immediately.
All right, freedom fighters and wellness warriors, welcome to our Warrior Wednesday with Live with the Docs, Dr. Jack and Diane. Today we're going to do Doc Talk, and we're going to talk about the old of mold. And how this stuff is in every one of us. So we went over a few of the bullet points on the intro, but just in case you're catching it right now, we're going to go over the mold epidemic and why it's a major root cause health issue for all of us. Western medicine fails, why your doctor will fail every time at detecting and treating it properly, except for the 3 that you're going to listen to today. Where it's coming from, like the food, air, walls, where. Is mold your root cause? We're going to talk about the symptoms, how it feels, what to look for in your surroundings, because people think that, oh, there's no black mold, so I that's not a problem, but yet they're eating it and they're breathing it in. We're going to talk about some of the mold that I was living in at my previous residence that nearly killed me. And it's what now is happening with landlords. A lot of them gaslight the tenants. That is a response that is all too common today. We were talking about in the hot tub the other day about how like homes today are just not built like they used to be. And it's becoming a major harbor for mold. We're going to talk about testing for mold in the home and the body and many solutions, but very few accurate labs that are out there. What happens? You got mold in your house. Now what? That will be some of the solutions that we'll be talking about in our after party and our ministry mastermind, which you can join for just $1 if you haven't just yet. You can go to dianekazer.com/VIP. Do that right now, because right after Dr. Dennis and myself and Dr. Jack finish today, which is going to be a half hour or so, we're going to get into the how to help you guys in that group, which is exactly what that's intended for, which is where we meet every week for an hour or 2 every Wednesday to support you guys, to keep you out of the hospital, to keep you on natural solutions. We're 2 doctors here in a ministry to support you. So that's where the solutions are going to be. how to work with a properly trained mold remediator, and then our actual patient results. Some of you are patients who are listening where they thought I'm fine, but they were completely unaware that mold was their number one underlying issues. So we're going to get into all of that, but now let's introduce our guest.
Dr. Donald Dennis, MD. I mean, one of the fascinating things, I've been privileged to teach a lot of medical doctors around the country. And when we see medical doctors that have been, with such credentials, been doing something for 40 years, ears, nose, throat, and has this capability of seeing outside of, hey, there's no such thing as mold. There is no such thing as mold. And there's, why are you doing that stuff? But somebody's been actually doing this and has pictures and testimonials and a track record for so many years doing it the right way. I don't know any ears, nose, and throat doctors that are doing anything that Dr. Dennis is doing. So when we were able to research his work and see some of the stuff he's done, it's really mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And it's such important work. I can't even explain.
Yeah. So Dr. Dennis, we'd love for you to tell us, I know that you've worked on tens of thousands of patients, and you obviously didn't just start yesterday. You have a lot of what I call experience, education, and empathy, which are the 3 E's that I suggest that people look for in a doctor and a trained medical expert that can really support them. You care so much about your patients, and you do the digging, you do the research, and that's why you've had so much success with so many patients. So let's start with that. Like, what makes you so credentialed that people should listen to you? We know why, but we love for the listeners to hear why.
Well, I took ENT training at Johns Hopkins Hospital, which was the first institution that taught ear, nose, and throat as a specialty. And at that time, it was 1980, and was 76 before that. So when you're at Johns Hopkins, you have a subspecialty in each area of ear, nose, and throat. And you spend time with those professors, and they teach you how to do the surgeries on each item that you're going to have to do. And then the last year, they let you go anywhere in the world you want to go to do 3 different tutelages, which would be whatever you picked. So I did that, and then I came back and practiced. And when you go in training, you're there in each thing for about a month. And then you think, well, what you learn gets everyone well. And so when you get into practice, you start treating people like you were taught. And then you notice that some of these people aren't getting better, no matter what you do. And so we had patients that had chronic sinusitis, and they were on antibiotics, steroids, surgeries, you name it, we did it, and they weren't getting any better. So I started asking myself, why is this? So we got a patient that had been coming for several years, and he always had pus in his nose, no matter what you did. You name it, we did it. It didn't work. So he came back one day, and he was totally clear. I'd never seen him clear before. So I asked him, what have you been doing? And he said, well, I went to the beach for 2 weeks. And so then I knew it was environmental, and then we figured out it was mold. And then from then on, it was kind of a drag race trying to figure out how to treat it all. So that's how it all started. And it's been gratifying and also humbling, especially when you do everything right and you don't get a result. So you start having to ask why all the time, and that's how you get the answers.
You know, Dr. Dennis, that's my favorite letter of the alphabet. I always say my favorite letter of the alphabet is Y. So, you can give all the antibiotics in the world, and that's what people get when they go to a regular Western medicine doctor, which you are an MD. This is why I always say on our shows, not all MDs are the same. There are many who are different. They stand out, and they look at the 50,000-foot view, and they're not just going to prescribe you more Cipro, which is a fluoroquinolone, which is known to rupture Achilles tendons, which happened to me, and can actually kill a lot of your healthy bugs and become super bugs. So ear infections are a major problem, but you're looking inside of the cavity. So, stress can be physical, it could be emotional, it could be chemical. And so it's not just about taking supplements. It's not just about cleaning up your diet. Sometimes physically there are issues and blockages. So how many surgeries? Well, actually, before we get into surgeries, I'd love for you to share some of those two statistics. I mean, we can open up your slides because there's two things that you said that really, really got to both of us. And I want you to share them. Which is our environment and the impact that it plays. And then also talk about how many surgeries that you've done, because as you can hear, I'm congested, and I selfishly have a question for you too, anatomically today.
Okay, so how many surgeries? Probably over 5,000.
Wow.
And we're still going. Basically, the biggest thing we have to do is get the patient focused on their air and their diet.
Mm-hmm.
If they get those two right, what I do is about 90% successful, surgically speaking. And it's very difficult for patients to do both of those, even though we try to make it easy for them. We have two company teams that do the environmental part, and then we give them a printed out diet. It's very simple, but a lot of these people have brain fog, and I'll show you some slides why that is. But basically, you can see on QEEG what their damage is. They have brain damage, and when you're on word 1, they're on, word 0. They're behind because their auditory system does not work normally. So when you say a word, the normal amount of time it takes for it to hit the brain is 300 milliseconds. Well, these people, when you do a test on them, a P300 test, which means how long does it take for sound to reach their brain? Some of these are 450, 600, and some of them NR, no response. So once we learn that, we have the patient write everything themselves so they own it. We don't just hand them a sheet with printed material because they don't own it. When they write it, they learn it. And so that's how they start, learning what to do. If they will get their environment fixed, and I'll sort of back up and say this, if you've got somebody who's really seriously ill, neurologically, like they got severe Parkinson's or they can't walk or they're blind or deaf, that's a serious neurological issue, and they need to move out of the environment, not take anything with them, and get into a safe place. That's the first step. I'm talking about really sick people, not the average one. The average one can usually fix their house while they're in it, and they'll be all right. But the really sick ones really need to get out of it because, first of all, they're mentally handicapped. They got brain fog. They can't really do anything. So they don't realize whether they're getting better or not because they're so inundated with the fungus and the mycotoxins. So if they can do that one step, they usually have to have somebody help them, a family member or a friend or somebody. If they can do that, then they start seeing that this stuff that we're doing is helping them. Then they see the other side. But when you're trying to get somebody with severe neurological issues well in a bad house while they're trying to fix it, that doesn't work out too well generally.
Yeah. And I want to share the image here that I learned from you. If you could zoom in a little bit on that, Paula, and have you expand on this, because Dr. Dennis, there are people that I know the psyches of humans. I've been working with them for 30 years now as a leader in various ways. And I know what the ego does. It says, oh, that doesn't apply to me.
That's right.
That won't happen to me. Right. And so we do know that, black mold is not something that is happening in every home, but the mold is happening in every home. Mold is in every one of our patients' lab tests. So I'd like to talk kind of like an overall big picture so people can really understand that it's not just black mold that's causing this issue. It's all of us. So can you explain more about what these statistics mean?
Okay, so yes, the air you breathe is 5x more important to your health than all treatment rendered by hospitals, doctors, and medication. That's really good news because that means if you fix your air, you did 5x more important than anything else you could have done. That means everything else is going to work. And the air you breathe is 2x more important to your health than your genetic code. You can't change your code, but you can do something 2x more important than changing your code. That's really powerful. So you have a lot of power in your own hands. And the 60% of all preventable deaths are due to the conditions of the air at home and at work. So this is all about environment. If you get your environment right, the treatment is easy, but you also have to get your diet right. And the reason is because all these people have yeast, candida in their gut. All humans have that. But the difference is this group of people cannot get rid of the gliotoxin that the candida puts out. So the gliotoxin goes from the gut into the brain, and then they have significant cognitive issues and decline. And so then when you're in cognitive decline, it's hard to cooperate with a treatment plan.
So when you say these people, are you referring to like the 25% or so of us who genetically don't do really well with clearing mold from our body, or what did you mean by that?
Yeah, that's right. So basically the 3 different genes, and they're not related. One is chronic sinusitis, and the second one is chronic sinusitis with polyp formation, which is the worst one. And the 2 aren't related. They can have any combination. And the third one is the inability to excrete the toxin. And that's related to MTHFR, inability to methylate B12, any kind of variant of that. So about 20-25% of the population has that. So they can't excrete the toxin like all the other people can. So frequently you have a married couple or a family, one person has the gene and they can't excrete it, so they're really sick. The other one's fine, and it's really a toxic environment. So the one that's fine concludes that it can't be the house because I'm not sick. So what I tell them is, look, just think of it like this. You're both sitting at the breakfast table eating a bowl of strawberries, and your wife breaks out in a total body rash because she's allergic to strawberries. And your conclusion is, honey, it can't be the strawberries because I don't have a rash. So it's that kind of thought process. So, and the reason is they can't metabolize the toxins. So they have to get out of the environment or fix the one they're in order for anything to work.
Yep.
So I tell them it's like this. So picture you have a dirty swimming pool. The water's all brown. You're sitting on the bottom of the brown water swimming pool trying to wrench the brown water out of your nose. It's not going to work.
Exactly.
So that's why you have to get out.
So I'll give you an example of that. I was living in mold this last home that I was in, and you can hear my sinuses. I'm still clearing them.
Yeah.
And in fact, we recommend people do eye washes and nasal rinses just in case, because we're breathing in so many toxins and enough plastic that's the size of like one credit card a week. I mean, we're just taking in so many toxins, and we breathe in most of this stuff. So I was just living in a home for 6 months that I had the mold tested, and there was aspergillus, there was cladosporidium. There wasn't like the black mold, like the Stachybotrys, but it was enough that 2 times in the middle of the night, I felt like I was having a heart attack at 3 a.m. And that is really, really scary. This is what I'm seeing. We actually have 3 patients right now who are going through the same thing, Dr. Dennis, where there's been black mold in the homes, or maybe not black mold, but just high levels of toxic mold that were in their homes. And the landlord has been denying it. And now they're in an attorney case, a legal battle, because these people now have to spend so much money on their health, and they're trying to go to doctors, their normal PCP, and that doctor is not recognizing that there is an issue. And I heard you say that you can't see this stuff on a CT scan. So when you work with your patients and you first start with them and they come to you and they say, I have an issue, what are you finding that's efficient that you can find the root cause of the problem?
Well, the first thing that we do before they come in is have them get a urine mycotoxin level.
Yep, we do too.
Because that saves all the discussion whether it's fungus or not.
Yeah.
And so if it's positive, so if it comes in through your nose and it ends up in your urine, where is it? Everywhere.
Yeah.
Including your brain. And we can now image it in the brain with artificial intelligence. We can see the mycotoxins and the sinuses in the brain.
Wow, really?
Yeah, we can show you that. But that's not, I haven't published that yet, but that's going to change everything.
That's awesome. My nerd alert just went off. Did yours?
Yeah, that's cool.
I can show you that today. But when you can show it to them on their scan and show it to them in their urine, in most cases, it makes them compliant.
Yes.
You know, they get on board. They understand, they can see the poison in their brain, and they understand they're not going to have a life unless they get rid of it. And so that's really helpful. But if you tell them, look, you see this urine test, you see you're positive to 5 out of 5 mycotoxins, and you're not eating, you know, the frozen fruit and the grains, you know, you got those out of your environment. So it's not your food, it's your air. They understand intellectually that, yeah, they got a problem. They know they're getting poisoned. But when you show them the picture in their brain, they get more active.
Speaking of the brain, we wanted to get into the slideshow so we can make sure that we start some of these things. And I also wanted Dr. Jack to share, we've been muscle testing. He's been muscle testing your products. Yeah. And, you know, thank you for sending those, because we want what work we're doing and succeeding with to be shared with our tribe in our ministry so that people can hear how successful we are. First of all, we were successful with using the fogger, as well as the products that you guys use, that you guys sell, that are how to clean out the air from porous things like furniture and books and clothes. And then we also have been using the laundry detergent. That's actually how I found you guys. I just did an online search, and, you know, me at 2 a.m., not being able to sleep because I was trying to figure out why. And I found you guys, and I found you guys to be very reputable. And then you sent us these products. So we have 3 of them. And Dr. Jack, speaking of the brain, go ahead and tell them which one muscle tested the best.
Yes, self-tropin. So this is very interesting. This is for the pituitary and hormonal systems. But, you know, and we could have Dr. Dennis really get into this, but mold really wrecks, you know, your pituitary gland.
Yeah, and then all your hormones that
that's important. Let me, I'll show you one of these other slides here.
Ooh, yay, poop slides. Those are our favorite. Or maybe that's not a poop slide. It's something that came out of the body that doesn't belong there.
This is the pituitary. We did actually a study on this because I was operating on these patients and noticed that a lot of them weren't healing properly. So I knew they were growth hormone deficient, but yet their IGF-1 scores, their insulin-like growth factor blood levels were normal. And so I concluded that the lab normal levels were incorrect. Yeah, I just knew that they were growth hormone deficient. So I finally got the endocrinologist to test these people and show that they actually could not make growth hormone. And so that was a really life-changing event, because these people really changed when they got growth hormone back. So if you look at this slide, if your IGF-1, which is called the insulin-like growth factor, if it is below the mean of normal, you have a 53% chance you're going to be growth hormone deficient, or you can't make enough, and you can make it, but you can't make enough. So then the second thing is they have some combination of thyroid, cortisol, growth hormone, or sex hormones, and some of them have pituitary tumors. We can get into that later. But if you don't equilibrate and bring back to normal their hormone levels, they can't ever get better. So this is part of the brain damage, is the pituitary. It's called part of the brain. So this has to be fixed. The good news is it's easy to fix it. So whatever's missing, you just replace it. And the testing means that you've got to find out, can these people make growth hormone? So they have to be stimulated. Yes. But you can't find an endocrinologist to stimulate them, because all of them have a normal IGF-1 and they believe the lab instead of the patient, you know. So we wrote a paper about this, but it was published in Toxicology, and so nobody ever read it. So So
It sounds like the typical Western medicine approach these days. And you're a
So
Western medicine doctor
we,
too.
we give the paper to the patients and let their doctor read it. And still, even when they read it, they don't get it very well.
You know, I'll tell you right now, Dr. Dennis, you are describing my exact scenario right now. I'm 45. I'm pretty much at this point at menopause. I got my hormone levels just checked, both using Dutch urinary analysis as well as looking at blood. I've just been experimenting with all of this myself. I did my gastrointestinal stool test. I did my total tox, looked at my mycotoxic load. And I am flatline low at everything, every hormone. And I've never been this low in my life. Like my T3 and my progesterone are like decimals. That's how low I am. I've never been this low. I was.
You got to fix that. You got
do.
to add it in.
What's that?
You got to add it in. You got to.
This one, you mean?
Well, what you've got to take whatever you're missing in terms of, the real hormone. You just have to replace it with oral ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
With the one you held up, the Celtropin is good because it's kind of a way to get growth hormone into your body under your tongue. So this is like a homeopathic, but it actually works, and it can't hurt you. But usually it will up your energy level and up your growth hormone over time, and it's safe. It's not like taking a drug. So that's why we made that one. We wanted it to be so anybody could use it and not have a problem. Of course, there's not going to be anything that you can give a large group of people that someone can't take it. So you, if you have any problem with anything, you just stop taking it. But for the most part, most everybody's fine with it.
Yeah, I'll tell you how I feel in an hour in the VIP group when you guys join the mastermind group. Dr. Jack wants to ask a question too.
The other thing, let's talk. You want to talk about science defense?
Yeah, we will, but we also want to talk about where this mold's coming from briefly.
Air.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah, air, walls, food mainly. Where's the main causes from?
Well, food and air, but if you just look at it simplistically, what do you take in your body in the largest volume? Air. It's 3,000 gallons a day. That's a lot of air.
Wow.
Okay, you wouldn't think that, but that's how much it is. So, and the second thing is food. So that's the second most voluminous thing you take, and the second thing is really water, and then food. So you got to get your water right, and a lot of times people drink tap water or filtered water. Of course, tap water in just about every area in the country has got chlorine in it.
Yes.
Unless it comes from a well, and so chlorine will exacerbate yeast. It makes it go crazy. So you can't have chlorine in your water. And my favorite is any kind of filter system is okay as long as you test it after it goes through the filter. It's easy to just use a swimming pool test kit to see if it's got any chlorine in it. But what I like better than all of that stuff is just to get Mountain Valley spring water in glass bottles.
Yeah, we love that.
And just have it delivered to your house in 5-gallon jugs and stick a cooler in your kitchen. That's what we do.
Spring water. We rotate between distilled and spring water. And actually, we're going to ask you questions in our VIP group too, because we just bought a hot tub and we're like, heck no on the chlorine. We're not going to do that. Right. So we're kind of starting to round up on time here at our 30-minute limit. And you guys, it's only $1 to join our ministry group, which is the VIP group. Join it now, dianekazer.com/VIP. We're going to go behind the scenes with Dr. Dennis and open up the floor for you to ask any questions that you would like. We're going to go deeper into solutions. This is the most important topic right now because we're seeing it in everybody and people think that they're just fine eating with their diets. we literally see not just one mold mycotoxin on all of our urinary reports, and we test like 30 plus. We're
Yeah.
seeing at least 5 in most everybody these days, and they're super surprised, and they think that their morning oatmeal is like super healthy, but usually it's loaded with mold mycotoxins. But you did actually want to bring something up as another solution, Dr. Dennis, and there is a link that Paula, our producer, is putting on the bottom. You guys can get 10% off to try some of these products. How did that one muscle test, the sinus defense? And then we can talk a little bit about that one too, Dr. Dennis.
Yeah, I wish I had a little bit more time with it, but it did test for a few people. But this is the sinus defense, and we also did the nasal spray. Out of all of them, really, this cell, and this was a shorter amount of patients that I was able to do that.
Yeah, we only did it for 3 days.
But this cell trophin really worked for a lot of people.
I already feel it.
You know what the reason is, because that's driving everything. So without growth hormone and that balance, nothing works.
Mm-hmm.
You're not making new cells. That's what makes you new cells. It should be called cell replacement hormone instead of growth hormone.
FDA might come after you.
Be careful.
Well, basically, it's not any. It's a homeopathic. So
yeah,
it's trying to get you to recognize your own and make your own.
Wow.
But it's not a drug. So it's safe, and the whole point is if you can't make new cells, you can't get well. And so anyone just want to make sure that your growth hormone is mid-range normal. Basically, we want it to be in the 200s, IGF-1s, and around 250. That's ideal. So some of these labs have a double digit as a normal reading for an IGF-1. That's like saying you're good with one leg.
Wow.
That's how bad that is.
Yeah.
Sick
care.
I call it hell care, not health care. And, Dr. Dennis, I think it pretty much echoes what Dr. Jack and I talk about on all of our shows, which is that with our patients, when he muscle tests them for the mitochondrial production from their cells, which obviously not working when human growth hormone's not optimized.
Right.
And he says mitochondrial output is what on average?
Like 10% of what it should be.
Which speaks to what you just said, double digits versus hundreds.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, so what is the mole's job is to kill you, right? And the way it does it, it takes out all your hormones. So, and then it totally destroys your immune system. Mm-hmm. And then eventually you die, and it finishes putting you with the leaves,
Right. Yes. That's a visual. And, Dr. Dennis, that's another thing. Mold is I have so many people, previous patients, friends of mine, people in our mastermind ministry group who've reached out to me and said they're excited for this day because they're having problems and they're surprised and they don't know what's going on. And they don't want to, just have a bulldozer tear down their $500,000 house and start over, because who has the money for that? My grandmother, just passed away this last October, or actually was September 29th. God rest her soul. But you know what they found in her home, Dr. Dennis? Black mold in her bedroom where she had been sleeping. And of course she was 95. Okay. So I'm not saying that the mold caused it, but I am saying that people are negligent and taking care of their homes, looking, at curtains and carpets and rugs and treating their homes properly, and the upholstery and it's everywhere. So I know it's a lot of work. We don't want that to be overwhelming, but see that fogger right there? Scroll back up, Paula. And Dr. Dennis, can you speak to that as one of the last solutions that we talk about here? And then we'll segue over to the VIP group where we're going to talk about more of this. You guys have this fogger.
The fogger is really important. It is the easiest way to fog everything. So it shoots out 30 feet in a fine mist, and you want to mist everything versus soaking it. You don't want to soak it. So, and you can mist your whole house in 5 or 10 minutes because you don't put it down. It's plugged into the wall, but you walk around with it and just mist everything, floor, wall, ceiling, the whole thing. And that massively reduces your load instantly. And you can do your floor and carpet, everything else. I tell people if they've got a really bad situation, do it 3 times a week. It doesn't take long. And then do it in your car too. And also, your car has an intake vent at the windshield wiper area.
Oh.
And when you turn on the AC, the air is sucked in. There's a little vent there by the windshield wiper. So I tell people to get a Kleenex tissue and put it along that vent until you see that Kleenex suck down. So then you locate where the location of the vent is that's sucking it into the car. Then you take the tissue away and then fog that area or spray it with about 40 sprays on both sides and let it run for 4 or 5 minutes and then turn it off and do it in the evening so you're not going to drive the car so it sits overnight. And that usually sterilizes the coil box, at least temporarily. Now, if you got a really bad car, you're going to have to do it probably every other day or something until you either get them to flush it at the, at the service department or get another car.
Yeah, God, I mean,
Yeah, we use that.
what?
I use that.
What, the fogger?
I use that fogger a lot.
Oh, he went to town at
Oh,
our previous place.
Yeah,
My
every
And you
shot-
can fog yourself also. You can put it on the floor, slant it up, turn it on wide open, and go a reasonable distance to it and fog yourself. And while you're doing it, don't get close to it so you get a fine mist coming on you.
Mhm.
And then breathe it in. Now, before anybody does this and finishes themselves off, just squirt some on a tissue first and sniff on it and see if you're sensitive to the product. There'll be occasional somebody is, but it's less, it's a single digit percentage. But test yourself first before you start fogging yourself.
Mhm.
So, just be cautious. It's not likely you are. Just make sure it doesn't bother you. If it bothers you, don't do it. So, if you stand in front of it and you sort of breathe it in and sort of rotate yourself slowly in a circle, so you're doing 360 and you're fogging your whole body, you will feel better, almost instantly when you do that. And that's what I do in the office. If someone comes in and they're full of mold, first we fog them. We fog a gown, we put the gown on them, and then we fog ourselves and put a gown on. And I use 100% oxygen if they are moldy because I can't tolerate it anymore after all these years.
Yeah, right. Wow.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
so that now most of the people are doing what they're supposed to do. They're taking a shower. They're doing all this stuff before they come in. But occasionally we get somebody who doesn't do anything and they think they're fine and they're really not. Because the first thing it does is knock your smell out in about 2 hours.
Mhm.
So then you can't smell it. And then you don't know that you're contaminated. But when they come in, we can tell pretty quick. I can tell you what genus it is by smelling it. And you don't want to be able to do that.
Wow. I when I first moved here from my last place, he was like, I can smell it. I can smell it on your clothes. And we didn't want to bring the mold from my previous place to here. So
That's right.
we defogged everything. Well, he did it. And I actually liked the smell of it. And I felt better moving out of the place. And my mood totally changed. Like, it was really bizarre, Dr. Dennis. The last day of my move, when I was packing everything up in this very moldy house, I was like, people are like, how you doing? It's your move day. I'm like, I am oddly calm and I'm in a good mood. I wasn't stressed. I felt like I was present. I didn't feel like the soil was pulling me into the ground to kill me as a big piece of mold. I felt like I was actually light and I was alive and my mind was clear and I was able to manage everything without being stressed out, because my immune system, basically, when I look at my gastrointestinal labs, I have been pretty much at nil for a very long time. I had breast implants. I had mold in my home as a kid. So I know I've been battling this for a long time and many people have. And now we're at time. So what we want to do is we want to help all of you who are listening. If you're already in our mastermind group, we'll see you right in that group. We're going to keep this conversation going. Dr. Dennis obviously knows what he's talking about. So this is your opportunity to ask him as the expert without having to pay 3 different doctors, $500 to talk to each one of us. It's only $1. So join us over there, dianekazer.com/VIP. We also flashed the link that if you guys wanted to try any of these products, there's a coupon code SSTruth10 for 10% off. If you wanted to talk to them before you bought anything, you could reach out to them, and they have really an amazing team there that can help you. Just mention our name, and then you were on the Chi podcast, and they'll help you. So Dr. Dennis, we're going to see you in our behind the curtain group, in the VIP group right now. Everybody listening, we'll see you over there. And we'll also put Dr. Dennis's links below if you guys have any other questions or if you want to work with him directly. So any final words?
God bless.
Yeah.
I'm so happy we have Dr. Dennis with us. Come check it out. Check out the tribe.
Yep.
Well worth it.
We'll see you on the other side, you guys. Thank you, Dr. Dennis, for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to today's show. If this episode really tugged at your soul and you're ready to have your personal breakthrough, we would love to have a heart-to-heart with you to get you crystal clear on 3 things. What do you want? What's standing in your way? And how do we get you to your soul goal in the fastest time possible? Visit my site, dianekazer.com/call to schedule your free 1-hour connection session with one of our warriors to map out exactly how you want to look, feel, and live. We've helped thousands of warriors just like you all around the world free themselves from the symptoms and suffering they never thought possible. And you just might be our next success story. Talk soon.